Hello everyone, my name is PolishLynx and welcome back to the gameplay that actually will be with commentary. Finally I managed to spare some time and record like that, and we'll see. Narcissu, the game I actually decided to download because I enjoyed Depression Quest, and this title is supposed to be a free visual novel, right? And the story is about a terminally ill man and woman, and I really believe this might be very interesting. Actually, I don't know if I will be commenting a lot, because there's supposed to be a voice track, so we'll see. Okay, enough talking, let's start. Select title, select translation. Okay, let's go with first one. Agilis GP32 and something. I don't know what to choose. This? Voiced, unvoiced. Yeah, let's go with voiced.
眩しかった日のこと。そんな冬の日のこと。
Okay, wrong voice track probably.
確かに。
Or maybe.
幼い頃から丈夫な方じゃなかった。
We have the text down, so that's good. Okay, she's not talking. But even so, I went to grade school normally. During summer vacation I played until I was turned very dark. June, soon after entering middle school. The day after we ordered swimsuits for the swimming class that would start next month. That time was the first time I experienced being admitted into a hospital. Just a little before the first semester midterms, a day where the rain that started to fall felt awfully cold. My dog started to bark at me. In the midst of the clear white sky of the rainy season, in the beginning, everyone in the class came to visit me each day. And when I was discharged from the hospital during the weekends, they would come to my house to play. But that was just the beginning. Fall came, winter left, hospitalized, discharge, outpatient care, and then starting again with hospitalization. Classmates who once were called friends, at some point became acquaintances, and then turned to strangers. With each turning of the seasons, it seems that I was disappearing from their memories.
どうやらいい気がしないらしい。
Uncomfortable.
普通に生きている人にとって私の存在ってのは
Okay, sometimes she talks and sometimes not.
消されたようだった。いくつもの季節、広い梅雨空を誰とも言葉を交わす必要もなく過ごした。私の英語の教科書は1年生の中間テスト以降まっさらな状態だった。そこで私の時間も止まったらしい。
Stage 9. Breaking Statement 2004. Early Summer. Protagonist. Summer flowing sweet. The driver's license examination area, a large electronic bulletin board was installed. All at once the lights came on, and like everyone else there, I searched for my own number. 237. 247. Scanning among the mostly lit light panel, I found my own examination number. Okay, that's the sound I am not capable of doing. because it was just past midday, the training car was quite empty. And in that empty car I was on the way home from examination center. In my left hand was the traffic regulations manual I had just received. In my shirt pocket was the brand new license. With this I'm also normally licensed. I murmured somewhat seriously, but didn't feel any particular strong emotion. It's not like I wanted to drive cars, nor did I really have another purpose in mind. It was just people around me were going to a training center and had recommended that I at least get a driver's license. That night, when I reported to my parents that I had gotten my license, "Is that so?" was the short reply. As an experiment, I tried saying that I wanted to borrow the car, and just as shortly came "you can't." It wasn't like I had wanted to drive the car, but the responses were exactly as I had imagined. They were those sorts of parents. The next day, upon waking up, my chest hurt, and so I was taken to the hospital. Normally I had little to do with things involving sickness. That was why waiting in the initial waiting room felt extremely boring. Finally, just when I thought the examination was over this time, I went to take X-rays and blood test was made to go. On top of that, for a long time, I was made to wait in boredom. Without noticing, I had finished reading 3 books of jump manga that was in the waiting room, and was reaching for a 4th. And just like that, I was made to the paperwork for being admitted into the hospital. The brand new driver's license that still lay in my shirt pocket. It looked like the time for its debut was far off. Protagonist 2004 autumn. Around when those very noisy cats had stopped crying. As usual, I was in the hospital. Of course, it wasn't like us always admitted in the hospital. I would be in and out. Last month, I had my first experience with surgery after being discharged. I commuted 5 minutes for outpatient care by scooter. And even from then on, admitted to discharge, outpatient care, gradually moving to being admitted again. I didn't know anything about PET or ERESA, but I noticed through the comics and goings that a number of months have passed. In exchange of my decreasing appetite, the types and amounts of drugs increased. Even I could see with my own eyes that my strength was declining. My legs felt a bit thin, but that's not your imagination. The needle on the scale would tell me. And yet, I was looking at myself somehow objectively, as if watching a stranger, like looking at a single stand on television. The sudden things that happened to my body, my head, couldn't keep up with them. The feeling that what was happening was real didn't arise. And so, even though it was supposed to be my own body, I could only watch myself from afar with cold eyes. Winter. Around when Christmas trees were disappearing from the streets. Perhaps it was the end of the year, but I was allowed to return home. In the end, it seemed to be only temporary, but even then I was a bit happy. In a mix of rain and sleet, I returned home for the first time in a while. For some reason, everyone in the family was gathered. Even though my parents normally didn't speak much, while being a bit stiff, they smiled at me. The little sister, who I always argued with, made my favorite cream stew and fried shrimp. We sat next to each other in the kotatsu. They peeled mandarins for me. They were excessively kind, that was the impression it left. During this time, I had just a bit of a realization. Still left in the pocket, the brand new license. That license, without giving rise to any practical value, might expire. while having stiff, unnatural smiles directed at me. Call me visually rather simply. I thought of that, as if thinking of someone else. January 2005. The new year passed and I returned again to the hospital. For some reason on the day I didn't go to the 4th floor, but instead to a conference room was made to go. There, with my father and the doctor, I heard many things. What was made to listen? It was the thing called notification, probably. They had an extremely indirect way of speaking, but in the end, it seemed like I was going to die. I see. That was why I was only able to reply with that. I couldn't find other words. From when I entered until I left the room, that was all that I said. Well, my reaction would probably be the same. Accepting my answer, the doctor moved the ballpoint pen in his hand. Most likely, it was the paperwork for the hospice. To the very end, he was very businesslike. My father was very much the same. It was such a simple thing. That was my honest impression. And then, between that day and the next, I changed from the 4th to the 7th floor, from a 6-patient room to a single. And also, the 7th floor itself was a bit different from other floors. For one thing, the floors were sparkling, the ceilings were much higher, much broader. Inside the rooms, it was extremely clean. The large windows seemed designed to let in lots of sunlight. However, the windows only opened a tiny bit. When I tried measuring, it was just slightly smaller than allowing your head pass through. The other thing was, the color of the ID bracelets changed. Since the day I was admitted, a vinyl bracelet was always wrapped around my wrist. Upon it was my name and blood type. That color had changed from blue to white. High ceilings, white vinyl bracelets, windows that could only open 15 centimeters. The day I was transferred to the 7th floor, it was when the boring New Year's programs were still being broadcast. The time I met her for the first time was also at the very beginning of the year.
Narcissus. 冬7回。
Across the hall, facing the nurse's station, was a lounge-like place. Left in that unpopulated place were a number of sofas, folding chairs and a large television. On that 28-inch CRT, a meaningless New Year's program running. Watching the boring television with an equally bored expression was some girl. She had a small build and wore pink pajamas. Her wrist had, just like I did, a white bracelet. Hair that was not to her lips left an impression. Hey you, is that interesting? There wasn't with any particular deep meaning, since there was no one around. I tried speaking to her profile.
別に
Not particularly. That was all that she replied with. She didn't even turn towards me even though I had spoken to her. Perhaps she had absolutely no interest in me. She continued to gaze at the vision with a bored look. If it's boring, you don't have to watch it. As I thought that, I also sat down in a folding chair. And sitting next to her, I gazed at the television. There was nothing else to do, nothing else I could do. Quietly, we continued to gaze at the television. On the screen were the usual New Year's programs, pathetic impersonations, and parlor tricks. Occasionally ringing out the host's stupidly high-pitched laugh in the pure white sunlight room entirely reverberated.
ね
Say,
え、あ
you.
なた、
Suddenly, the girl spoke to me while still gazing at the television.
あなた、
We were on which time?
何回目？
We language time. What does that mean?
ここに
Come in here.
7階に来
Seventh
た
floor.
の。
Okay. That's really interesting. Very interesting story. Let's leave the answer for the next episode. I hope you enjoy. And see you in the next one. Bye.